I'm Connor, 26M, and I was with my girlfriend Melissa, 24F, for 2 years. We've been talking about moving in together and maybe getting engaged. I thought we had a solid relationship and that she was the person I wanted to spend my life with. About 10 months ago, I found out Melissa was cheating on me. I didn't catch them in the act or anything dramatic like that. I saw a text notification pop up on her phone while she was in the shower, and it was from a guy named Derek saying he missed being with her. I know I shouldn't have, but I looked through her phone while she was still in the bathroom. There were weeks of messages between them talking about their hookups and how they needed to be more careful so I wouldn't find out. The messages went back about 3 months. Some of them were really explicit about what they were doing together. But what really got to me was that in some of the messages, Derek was asking if Melissa was going to break up with me. And she kept saying she wasn't sure because it was stable and good boyfriend material. So basically, I was the safe backup plan while she had her fun with this other guy. I was planning to confront her about it when she told me she was pregnant. Melissa was so excited when she told me. She said she was about 8 weeks along and that she'd been waiting to be sure before she said anything. She started talking about how happy she was and how she couldn't wait for us to be a family. But I knew the timeline didn't add up. According to her phone, she'd been sleeping with Derek regularly during the time when she would have gotten pregnant. She'd also been sleeping with me, but less frequently because she was always making excuses about being tired or not feeling well. I didn't say anything that night because I was in shock. I just pretended to be happy while my mind was racing. I kept thinking about those text messages and wondering if Derek knew about the pregnancy. Over the next few days, I went back and looked at her phone again when I had the chance. I found messages where Melissa had told Derek about the pregnancy, and he'd completely freaked out. He told her there was no way he was ready to be a father and that she needed to handle it. That's when I realized what was happening. Derek had rejected her when she told him about the pregnancy, so now she was going to try to convince me the baby was mine. I know I should have confronted her right then, but I was so angry and hurt that I couldn't think straight. I felt like my entire relationship had been a lie, and now she was trying to trap me into raising another man's child. I decided to wait and see how far she would take the deception. I want to know if she would ever tell me the truth or if she was planning to lie to me for the rest of our lives. For the next 8 months, I pretended to be excited about the baby. I went to doctor appointments, helped set up the nursery, bought baby supplies. The whole time I was watching Melissa, waiting for her to come clean. She never did. If anything, she seemed to get more comfortable with the lie as time went on. She would talk about how the baby was going to look like me or have my personality traits. She started making long-term plans for our future as a family. The worst part was that she seemed genuinely happy. She was excited about being a mom and kept talking about how perfect our little family was going to be. Sometimes I almost convinced myself that maybe I was wrong about everything. But then I would remember those text messages and how she'd been perfectly fine with cheating on me for months. I also checked her phone a few more times throughout the pregnancy, and I could see that she and Derek had stopped talking completely. It looked like he'd blocked her number after she told him about the pregnancy. As Melissa's due date got closer, I started planning what I was going to do. I knew I couldn't keep pretending forever, but I also didn't want to cause stress during her pregnancy that might hurt the baby. I decided I would wait until after the baby was born and then demand a paternity test. I figured that was the fairest way to handle it. Let her have a safe delivery and then deal with the truth. Last week, Melissa went into labor. I drove her to the hospital and stayed with her through the whole delivery. I'm not going to lie, it was emotional watching her go through that, and there were moments where I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. When the baby was born, she was obviously healthy and beautiful. Melissa was crying with happiness and kept saying how perfect she was. The nurses were congratulating us and talking about how we must be so excited to be new parents. I held the baby for a few minutes, and I felt this weird mix of emotions. She was innocent in all of this, and I did feel something when I looked at her. But I also knew she probably wasn't mine, and I couldn't pretend anymore. After the medical team finished up, and it was just Melissa and me in the room, I told her we needed to talk. Melissa was exhausted from the delivery, but she seemed happy and relaxed. She asked what was wrong, and I told her I knew about Derek. The change in her expression was immediate. She went completely pale and asked what I meant. I told her I'd known about the affair for months, and that I knew the baby was probably Derek's. I said I'd been waiting to see if she would tell me the truth, but since she hadn't, I wanted a paternity test. Melissa completely lost it. She started crying and screaming that I was wrong and that the baby was definitely mine. She said she couldn't believe I would accuse her of something like that right after giving birth. I stayed calm and told her I'd seen the text messages between her and Derek. I said I knew the timeline of when she got pregnant and when she was sleeping with him. That's when Melissa broke down completely. She admitted that she'd been with Derek, but she swore she didn't know who the father was. She said she'd been hoping the baby was mine because Derek didn't want anything to do with being a father. She begged me not to get a paternity test and said we could just raise the baby together regardless of who the biological father was. She said she loved me and wanted to be a family. I told her I couldn't do that. I said I couldn't raise a child knowing it might not be mine, especially when the whole situation started with her cheating and lying to me. Melissa got hysterical at that point. She was screaming that I was abandoning her and the baby, and that I was a monster for waiting until after the birth to bring this up. The nurses came in because of all the screaming, and Melissa told them I was trying to abandon my newborn daughter. She was sobbing and saying she couldn't believe I would do this to her. I tried to explain to the nurses that there was a question about paternity, but they looked at me like I was the worst person alive. One of them asked if I was really going to abandon a baby I'd just watched being born. I left the hospital that night feeling like everyone thought I was a terrible person, but I also felt relief that the truth was finally out. The next day, I got a call from Melissa's mom saying that Melissa had had some kind of breakdown and was being kept in a hospital for psychiatric evaluation. She blamed me for causing Melissa to have a mental health crisis right after giving birth. I also got calls from several of Melissa's friends calling me every name in the book. They said I was a deadbeat dad who was trying to get out of my responsibilities. I called a lawyer the next morning and explained the whole situation. He said that since I wasn't married to Melissa and my name wasn't on the birth certificate, I had no legal rights or obligations regarding the baby until paternity was established. He also said that because Melissa was in psychiatric care, I could petition the court for a paternity test as a potential father seeking to establish or disprove paternity. He filed the paperwork that same day. The court fast-tracked the request because of the unusual circumstances, Melissa being hospitalized and the baby needing care arrangements. We got approval for the test within 48 hours. The hospital was able to collect samples from the baby and from me while Melissa was still in psychiatric hold. Her family consented to the test on her behalf since she wasn't in a state to make medical decisions. Meanwhile, the baby is still in the hospital because Melissa can't take care of her right now. Melissa's family is trying to get temporary custody, but they're also pressuring me to step up and take responsibility. I feel like I'm in an impossible situation. Everyone is acting like I'm the villain, but Melissa is the one who cheated and lied. I don't think I should have to raise a child that might not be mine just because the real father doesn't want to be involved. But I also keep thinking about that baby in the hospital with no one to take care of her. She didn't ask for any of this mess. I should get the paternity test results in the next day or two. Part of me is hoping I'm wrong about everything, but another part of me knows I'm probably right. I don't know if I handled this the right way. Maybe I should have confronted Melissa earlier in the pregnancy. Maybe I shouldn't have waited until after the birth to bring it up. But I also don't think I should be expected to just accept being lied to and potentially tricked into raising another man's child. Everyone in my life is telling me I'm wrong, but I don't know what else I was supposed to do. Edit. A lot of people are asking why I didn't confront her earlier. Honestly, I was scared and angry, and I wanted to see if she would tell me the truth on her own. I know that probably wasn't the right way to handle it. Edit 2. The baby is not abandoned. She's in a hospital nursery being cared for while Melissa is in psychiatric hold. Melissa's family is working on getting temporary custody. Update. 4 days later. I got the paternity test results yesterday. The baby is not mine. I feel vindicated but also empty. I was right about everything, but it doesn't feel good to be right about something like this. My lawyer called me with the results first, then sent me the official documentation. The test showed 0% probability that I'm the father. There's no question about it. Melissa is still in the hospital. Her mom called me after the lawyer contacted them with the results. She said Melissa had another breakdown when they told her, and they had to increase her medication. Her mom was crying on the phone and said she didn't know what they were going to do. She asked if I would consider staying involved anyway, since I'd been planning to be the baby's father. I told her I couldn't do that. I understand it's a difficult situation, but I can't pretend to be a father to a child who isn't mine when the whole relationship was built on lies. I took the paternity test results to Derek's apartment yesterday. I looked him up on social media and found his address. I wanted him to know that he has a daughter who needs a father. Derek answered the door, and I could tell he knew why I was there. I showed him the test results and told him about the baby being in the hospital and Melissa's condition. He said he'd already heard about everything through mutual friends and that he felt bad about the situation, but he wasn't ready to be a father. He said he'd pay child support if he was legally required to, but he didn't want to be involved in the baby's life. I told him he was a coward and that he was partly responsible for this whole mess. He said he never asked Melissa to lie to me and that he'd made it clear from the beginning that he didn't want a relationship or a family. So now there's a baby whose mother is having a mental breakdown and whose father wants nothing to do with her. And somehow I'm still getting blamed for not stepping up to take care of her. Melissa's sister called me today, crying and begging me to reconsider. She said Melissa might not be able to take care of the baby for a while, and Derek obviously isn't going to help. She asked if I could find it in my heart to help raise the baby since I'd been planning to anyway. I told her I couldn't do that. I can't pretend to be a father to a child who isn't mine, especially when the whole situation started with lies and betrayal. Melissa's family is now trying to get custody of the baby themselves, but they're older and not sure they can handle raising a newborn. They're also struggling financially. I keep getting calls from people telling me I'm heartless for walking away from a baby I'd bonded with during the pregnancy. But I don't know how I was supposed to bond with her when I knew the whole time that she probably wasn't mine. The worst part is that I do feel something for that baby. I was there when she was born, and I did hold her. But I can't let those feelings trap me into a situation that was built on lies. I've been getting hate messages on social media from people who heard about the story. They're calling me a deadbeat and saying I'm abandoning an innocent child. But what was I supposed to do? Pretend I didn't know about the affair? Raise a child knowing her mother lied to me for months. I feel bad for the baby, but I'm not her father. Her real father is the one who should be stepping up, not me. I don't know what's going to happen to any of them. I just know I can't be part of this situation anymore. Final update, 1 week later. This is going to be my last update because I'm done with this whole situation and I need to move on with my life. Melissa was released from the hospital 2 days ago. She's staying with her parents and is on medication for postpartum depression. Her mom called to tell me and said Melissa wants to see me, but I told her that wasn't going to happen. The baby went home with Melissa's parents yesterday. They've been approved for temporary custody while Melissa gets better. They're going to try to raise her themselves, at least for now. I heard through a mutual friend that Derek has been getting pressured by his own family to step up and be a father. Apparently his parents found out about the baby and are furious with him. But so far he's sticking to his decision not to be involved. My lawyer said Derek will probably be forced to pay child support once Melissa's family files the right paperwork, but he can't be forced to actually parent the child. I've been thinking a lot about whether I made the right choice, and I still believe I did. Yes, the timing was harsh, but I don't think there was ever going to be a good time to reveal that I knew about the affair. If I'd confronted Melissa earlier in the pregnancy, she would have been dealing with stress and drama during a time when she needed to focus on her health. If I'd waited longer, I would have been even more involved in the baby's life, and it would have been harder to walk away. The truth is, there was no good way to handle this situation because Melissa created it with her lies. I was just trying to protect myself from being trapped in a relationship built on deception. I feel bad for the baby, and I hope she has a good life with her grandparents. But I can't sacrifice my own future for a child who isn't mine, especially when her real father is out there refusing to take responsibility. As for Melissa, I hope she gets better and learns to be a good mother. But I also hope she learns that actions have consequences and that lying to people who love you will eventually catch up with you. I'm blocking everyone involved in this situation and starting fresh. I deserve to be with someone who won't lie to me and cheat on me. And that baby deserves a father who actually wants to be her dad. That's not me, and I'm not going to pretend it is just to make other people feel better about the situation. The worst part of all this is how it's affected my reputation. Someone posted about the situation in a local Facebook group, and now there are hundreds of people commenting about what a terrible person I am. They're calling me all kinds of names and saying I'm abandoning my responsibilities. But these people don't know the whole story. They don't know that Melissa cheated on me and lied for 10 months. I had to delete my social media accounts because people were sending me threatening messages. Someone even found out where I work and called my boss to complain about me. My boss pulled me aside and said that while my personal life was my own business, the negative attention was becoming a problem for the company. He didn't fire me, but he made it clear that I need to keep this drama away from work. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about any of that. Everyone in my life is telling me I'm wrong, but I still think Melissa is the one who caused all of this. That baby is going to grow up with her grandparents because her real father doesn't want her and her mother lied about who the father was. And somehow that's my fault because I won't pretend to be her dad. I never asked for any of this. I just wanted an honest relationship with someone I loved. Instead, I got 10 months of lies, and now I'm being treated like a villain for not going along with it. Maybe that makes me a terrible person, but I can't keep sacrificing my life for someone else's deception.